Okay, what's up everybody? We are here with another chess video. This time it is an old Benoni defense. Right, so they start with d4, we go knight f6. I've been practicing these Indian, well, I've been practicing the Benko gambit and stuff, but obviously in order to get the Benko gambit they need to play this way, which not everyone does, so I've had to also step up my Indian game, etc. But, obviously the Indian's very difficult. There's a lot of nuances that I'm still figuring out. But anyway, so yeah, first move, knight f6. Then they respond with knight c3. Then we do some reverse Chigorin shenanigans. So this is kind of the opening that I've been going with recently. Obviously, if they take, then we plan on taking back eventually with compensation. Not completely unlike the Queen's Gambit sort of situation. And also we can get the Queen here potentially, and obviously we can move this knight here without blocking this pawn. Obviously the downside of moving this pawn is that you can't castle queenside, but in an Indian defense you're not going to be castling queenside anyway, so the downside isn't very significant. Okay, so they push the pawn. And yeah, we're doing standard Indian defense stuff here. But yeah, this is called the Benoni-Indian defense apparently. So some kind of Benoni/Indian mix, because the structures are very similar. They're both responses to d4. Okay. So that pawn move, kind of interesting. I wonder what... Does the game think that was a mistake? I don't know. Yeah, why aren't I getting any analysis here? Oh, whatever. Okay. We're going to try and make this a quick one. So, we castle, so far, we're pretty much just developing pieces and, nothing too exciting has happened so far. So then they move the knight here and we move our knight here. Obviously we can't move the knight there. There is kind of bad because they can just take and then our bishop. Well, I guess our bishop would have a hard time finding anywhere to move. So yeah, knight here. Obviously it is blocking the bishop, but it's very easy to move a knight again potentially in the future. So blocking a bishop with a knight early isn't really a big deal because you can always move the knight somewhere else later on. Then we move this knight here. The engine doesn't like that. This was, obviously we get an attack off there and we can potentially move the queen here. But the better move would have been knight b6. So just continuing my development this way. Okay, so anyway. Boom, 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 boom. So yeah, this has blocked off this bishop, which isn't great, but challenging these two, I guess. And then they're going to take, I presume. No, they didn't take, okay. Yeah, and then the engine says I should just take their knight here, but I didn't. You see, the weird thing is when you're like really early on, like when you're below like 1,000, maybe below 1,100, everyone just exchanges automatically. They're like, ooh, a piece, yeah, let's exchange, without even thinking about how it affects the position. Meanwhile, once you get to sort of like my rating level, people are just afraid of exchanges, and they just don't exchange, even if it is the best thing to do. Okay, so finally an exchange happens. More exchanging. And yeah, this is already really bad for me, obviously, because, well, their king is pretty safe, regardless of which way they choose to castle. And this king here, he can move back there, but, it's kind of a nasty situation already. We've got this bishop coming in, we've got the queen coming in, and these pieces are going to have a hard time getting over here to help out, I mean, if we move this pawn, then we can get the queen over there at least. But yeah. And then we move a6, which is just a move that doesn't make any sense at all, right? Yeah, king h8 is a move that makes a lot more sense. But yeah, I think I was just trying to stop this knight. I think I was kind of not really worried about the queen when I probably should have been. Anyway, we'll see how this goes. So already they have a pretty big advantage. We'll see what happens. Pawn forward. More pawn movements. More pawn movements. You see, I like this move because, you know, obviously it does block the bishop, but we can take and then it's not a problem, and it's not like they can move this pawn. I mean, they can take back, of course, but the point is to get this queen able to come in through this diagonal if needs be. Okay. Then we take. And yeah, it's now looking pretty much the same as it was in terms of the eval bar. King h8. Ooh, the engine didn't like that one. Why didn't the engine like that one? f4. Yeah, that would be pretty annoying. But luckily they don't see that. Yeah, now this move is fucking whack, okay? Don't do this. Don't do this, right? Don't undevelop your bishop. Like, what? Bizarre move, honestly. I don't know what the logic was, and I couldn't not really speculate either. And another bad thing about undeveloping this bishop is, obviously, if we want to defend this rook with one of these pieces, now that's no longer possible. So, assuming we move the rook here, then it's only defended by this king on h8. Well, if we didn't move this bishop, then the rook would at least be defended by these two, and we could also, you know, move them onto this file. But yeah, the bishop move, pretty terrible. Kind of nonsensical. And then they trade a rook for a bishop, which is, does the engine like that? Yeah, the engine does like that. Okay, so very, very good for my opponent. And then, yeah, now we're in trouble. So this is, attempting to defend from this. f6 is the best move here, but king g8 is another option. Then they move the queen back. We move our bishop once again. And yeah, with just right now we're playing pretty horribly, and as we can see, all of this has come from the fact that this king side was just weakened earlier on, and our king has been exposed, and the pawns are a mess. No connected pawns here, and yeah, basically right now we're just fighting for dear life, trying to defend this king. Oof. Yeah. There we go. So, already looking pretty bad. Was this a good move? Yeah, no, it wasn't. The engine wants us to go rook e8 or queen d6. But yeah. And you can sort of guess how this one ends up. We'll just, skip ahead a bit. There we go. I don't even know if this one's even worth uploading because it's such a stomp on the opponent's end. But, you know, sometimes you have to humble yourself a little bit. So where did we go wrong here? Obviously, there was some questionable moves early on. And really, what ended up screwing us over was the fact that this knight was poorly defended by this pawn, so they trade, and the knight exchange, this whole exchange ends up with this king looking very vulnerable, and these pawns being unconnected, and yeah, so we can see through the eval bar that, you know, things were pretty much even before that exchange, and then once the exchange happens, things are already weighted in favor of my opponent. Probably could have come back if my moves later on actually sort of addressed this concern, but I sort of ignored it for a few moves, as you can see here, which wasn't very wise, like just trying to push, you know, play on the queen side, when really what I should be doing is getting these pieces over here somehow, so that I can actually, you know, have a chance if they come in with an attack, which obviously eventually they do come in with an attack. So yeah, that's going to be everything. Shorter video and, you know, obviously a bit of a stomp, but, you know, never say that I only show games that make me look good. Anyway, thanks to anyone who's watched this far, and people who watch the videos in general, and subscribe and like if you enjoy. Adios.